Throwback videos. I love throwback videos. I love throwback music. I love Throwback Thursday. And even though it's just Tuesday, I just saw this throwback video. And it was like, the caption was, things my mama used to make me listen to when I was growing up. And it just made me smile. But I was noticing when I was listening to this song, it was a callback song. If y'all want to party like I do, say and the audience goes on beat. You know what I'm saying? And I started thinking about a lot of the media that we had when we were growing up. Sesame Street, Electric Company, a lot of the cartoons we had, even the music. A lot of it really, you had to be engaged. You had to be locked in because it was pretty interactive. They wanted you to sing along. They wanted you to repeat after them. And I'm not saying that there aren't cartoons like that still. There are for really small kids. But even with, like I said, music, a lot of it was where you really needed to listen. You needed to lock in. And a lot of the music told a story. And so if you didn't listen and pay attention, you couldn't follow the story. And so I think that we were surrounded by literacy, even when we didn't even realize it. We were surrounded by cause and effect. We were surrounded by logical sequences. We were surrounded by storytelling. You know, I don't listen to a lot of modern music because I don't see in many of it, I don't see, or in much of it, let me say, in much of it, I don't see a story. I don't see a point. I don't see a message. It just seems to be about the beat, about repeating a few words. And I'm not going to say that there was no music like that when we were growing up, because of course there was music like that, but I think that it was the minority versus the majority, because so many songs that I think of, so many TV shows, cartoons, kids shows that I think of, literally it was a story. And you had to pay attention. You had to watch and listen to understand the sequence of events. And when I'm on social media and I see sometimes younger people jump on my posts, sometimes the reading comprehension just is not there. It's like you watch this video, the same video that I posted, right? But you came up with some off-the-wall comment that had nothing to do with the video. Now, I understand people could be trolling, people could be looking for attention, people could be bored, they could have a whole lot of things, but it happens so much. And paired with the fact that we know through all kinds of research, and I know as an educator who's been an educator at many different levels, that literacy levels have dropped drastically. You know, I started teaching in 1995, and we had kids that were below grade level in 1995, but they weren't 6, 7, 8 grade levels below grade level. They were 1 or 2 or maybe 3 grade levels below the grade level they were supposed to be on. So they still had some ability to interact with the content. You had to bridge some gaps, but you can, if you have an intensive program, if the kid is doing the kind of work and homework and reading outside of class that they need to do, research has shown that you can bridge 2 years in a year. You can possibly even bridge a 3-year gap in 1 year of schooling. But you can't bridge 6, 7, 8 years. At least I've never seen it done. I've never heard of it being able to be done. You know, so I think that the whole society has moved away from literacy, moved away from reading, moved away from understanding a logical sequence of events and logic itself. So it just it tickles me when I see the past and I see how so many things literally helped us to develop our brains, develop our ability to communicate, develop our thought processes. You had a lot of conscious rap, a lot of socially minded rap that introduce you to political and social concepts. I don't know if there's much of that anymore. At least I'm not exposed to it. If it is something that's still going on, so it just makes me think, and I would love to hear your thoughts on the topic of music, of media, of TV and cartoons and movies, and whether you feel like we've moved away from it. And one thing that I do love is when we have a phenomenon like a movie like Wicked, where there are so many symbols and links back to the Wizard of Oz, and so many parallels to modern society. You got to think in movie. You got a movie that you have to process, that you have to take in, that you have to mull over and analyze and process. And once again, there are people who are processing it and coming out with the opposite of what they should get. They're not understanding who Galinda could represent in our society, who the Wizard of Oz could represent in our society, who Elphaba could represent in our society. They're not understanding the oppression of the talking animals. They're not understanding any of this, or the rewriting of history. They're not seeing the parallels to today. But I'm glad that there are people that are producing movies and music and books, even if they're pulling from 20 years ago when Wicked was written, to bring it to the modern day, because we need it. We need it. We need things that are going to make people think. We need things that are going to teach them how to draw connections and how to see parallels and how to see themselves and see society through different viewpoints, because our viewpoint isn't the only valid one. Sometimes we need to put ourselves in other people's shoes. Sometimes we need to think about all the different perspectives that exist on an issue and have empathy for those different perspectives. So I'm grateful for those experiences. May you walk in Zennurgy. Throwback videos. I love throwback videos. I love throwback music. I love Throwback Thursday. And even though it's just Tuesday, I just saw this throwback video. And it was like, the caption was, things my mama used to make me listen to when I was growing up. And it just made me smile. But I was noticing when I was listening to this song